we're live.
Yeah, it told you that we were live before it told me. And I'm the one who pressed the button.
Mm-hmm.
We see who's really in charge here.
Hi,
Hi, guys.
hello.
We're finally getting to do this. Sorry about yesterday. I was not feeling well. So I am back today, and we're ready to do this talk, get this shit underway. Thank you for waiting a little bit. I was trying to get the chat to come back. For whatever reason, it had disabled itself.
The chat came back.
Yeah, but I can see you guys typing now, so it seems like everything's working fine. Are we working fine on your end? Just give me like a yes or a no, just to make sure.
I can't see chat today. So
yes.
I have messages on. Because I'm on the iPad today.
Good morning, Wayward. Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, Kitty. Hi, Debbie. See, Shakti Shaman. Hi, Tracy.
Hello.
New Eats. Ooh, Shay. Awesome. Seems good there. Great. Okay, so if you guys don't know, I'm not sure why you're subscribed here, but my name's Cris Ashburn. And my lovely co-host, who owns half of this channel, basically, I was getting there, is Joey Morris.
Why, hello.
And completely not on purpose, we've both worn cat ears today.
Well, mine are fox ears. I like.
Well,
they're fox
either way, they're ears on a headband, and we both did this. Without knowing. Yeah. So you guys think that we plan this stuff and we both come on with like red lipstick and stuff. We don't.
Yeah,
we show up and we go, oh, you did. Okay.
It's a tribe thing. It's like, oh, this is a good idea. And then on the other side of the world, Cris is like, oh, this is a good idea.
This is a good idea. A huge murder of crows was outside my workplace and a black cat showed up. It's October. Yes. Breathe the breath of October. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm. I felt the shift. Did anyone else feel the shift on October 1st? I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was like when Jack Skellington rises up. Just
yeah.
Yes. All right. So, guys, today we're going to be talking about common misconceptions in shadow work.
Yes.
We just did a live back on, was it Friday or Saturday? Friday? Friday on Joey's channel, which, by the way, all of our links are underneath if you want to check them out. Yeah, so
about
that, yeah, I'm sorry, I got distracted because somebody was like, because September kind of sucked, and I was like, yeah, September was kind of sucky, and then yeah,
it was. It was a bad September.
Yeah, it was kind of.
And I like September, and my birthday's in September, so it was a bad September.
Yeah, but we're in October now.
We are.
So, and I have a good feeling about October. I do. But no, so the video that we did on Joey's channel the other day was in reference to shadow work. We spent a lot of it kind of just going over the basis of what shadow work is and what we mean when we say it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying we're getting ready for shadow work. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, preparing for it. But to prepare for it, we also had to kind of go into what it is for us, you know? And then today, we're talking about common misconceptions. So, I guess, first I want to ask the chat while we're talking about this, what do you think a common misconception is? What have you found, or are you assuming is not really the reality of what shadow work is? Oh, Shakti Shaman says, happy belated birthday, Joey.
Well, thank you.
As I tried to type around to Kitty. Yes, that's difficult.
Kitty's seen the kitty ears and wants to get involved.
Yes. I must talk to my people.
Yeah. Clearly these people have cat ears. The cats are in charge. Talking of cats.
Pantarea said that it ends. What are you holding? Wait a minute. I need to click this up.
It's Ghost Machine.
It's the ghosty machine. It's adorable.
I'm in love with these. The Halloween machines. Anyway.
Yes.
That it ends. That's a very good point.
That's a good one. And then, let's see, Wayward says that shadow work is inherently bad, or Kitty Spellcraft also says shadow work is based on all the negative.
You are singing the song of my
people.
Shadow work
is done and finished, yes. Shadow work is dangerous and quote-unquote not to be messed with. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. I'm
going to grab a piece of paper. So if I disappear off the screen in 1 minute.
She's got a Virgo note take.
Yeah.
I believe shadow work is a positive thing and is often seen as a scary endeavor. I also believe it's linked to soul retrieval. I'm interested in your view on this. That's that's an interesting point that a lot of people don't talk about. Did you hear that, Joey?
No, say again.
Okay, so Shakti Shaman says, I believe shadow work is a positive thing and it's often seen as a scary endeavor. I also believe it's linked to soul retrieval. I'm interested in your views on this. We haven't really touched on anything like that before yet.
On soul retrieval?
Mm-hmm. Oh. And how shadow work is
positive,
merged, or very similar depending on your perspective. Yeah.
I'm just making notes for all the points. I don't miss any. And my points. So I don't forget those. Okay. I've been in Virgo work mode today, so I've been working like crazy since about 9 o'clock. So my brain is like 100 miles a minute, just so everyone knows. Okay. So do you want to touch on the not scary negative part first, or the soul retrieval part of that first? Let's get to the soul retrieval after, because we're going to spend a little bit on that, you and I. Mm-hmm. I know we're gonna. So let's do the others first, and then we'll get to that, if you don't mind, Shakti, because that alone could make a broadcast, in my opinion. I was wondering, like, topic can make a whole video, yes. Because soul retrieval is a huge topic. It's a huge topic, and people don't really talk about it that much. Say what? Was it Shakti? Shakti Shaman. Would you rather have a whole live chat about that question? Because we can do a whole live chat about that question. I believe shadow works. She also wrote, I think that at times when the soul fractures, a shadow aspect steps forward, almost like a mask. I've got a whole blog post. She's snickering. Yeah, she's snickering because we speak about masks a lot. Yeah. Yeah, see, and Christina D is like, what is soul retrieval? That's what I mean. Yeah. So that's a topic that people don't even, they don't hear about that much. To the extent that, like, when we say it, I think some people make an assumption on what it is. And yeah. I think we should do a whole chat on that to do it justice, as long as okay with that. If that's all right with you. Yeah, we can do that next if you like, because it follows on really well from this topic. To give a really short answer to you, though, I think that they are very, very much intertwined. Personally. Yeah. Very, very much. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, she says, I would love to see it touch base on this, but would be a great topic for a full video. I touch on this on my posts back in 2014. I can share the link with you later. Yeah, if you want to share it with us later, you know where to find us. I know I spoke to you on Instagram recently, so share that and we'll take it in and then do a whole video. Yeah. Yeah, because that is one that's just, it's going to go down the rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. Because there are some people here that don't know the components of it separately, and so we're going to have to talk about those and then, like, get into how they are intertwined. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's a great topic. Okay, so the other part of it was the fact that shadow work is in fact and a positive experience, and is not always a negative experience. I think we've touched on the fact that, or I know that I've definitely ranted on about the fact that a lot of the time we talk about shadow emotions and shadow work in terms of things which are seen as and perceived to be negative. And people are like, oh, it's the difficult emotions or getting rid of certain feelings and emotions. And it's not getting rid of anything at all, because all emotions are valid and all responses are valid. And it drives me nuts when people are like, you don't have to respond to a situation. I'm like, well, you don't have to verbally give your power away to a situation, no, but having an emotional response to a situation isn't inherently a negative thing. Like being angry at a situation which deserves
yeah, because then we go into the whole society thing of like, if you are emotional, then that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
but emotions also serve a purpose as well.
Yep. And sometimes anger changes social situations. When people are angry at injustices, that can be the burning ember, the fuel for social change. So without anger, for example, that may not occur. Women have the vote because women got angry about not having the vote. So in terms of having a positive experience during shadow work, I wouldn't say that shadow work is either positive or negative, but in fact embodies both. Because you can definitely have moments of relief when you're going through shadow work, as in, okay, now at least I know where this is coming from. Like maybe you had a built up emotional response and you're getting very upset to a certain situation and you couldn't quite figure it out. And then there's an element of relief and understanding that comes during the process of shadow work. Shadow work is never going to be an easy process, because human beings looking at themselves hard, looking at the parts of themselves which they have decided are less desirable, less, I don't know.
Right. But that's where the phrase easy is given like a good or bad connotation, and that's not necessarily the truth. Like, it's not about, if it's good or bad. Like, regardless of how hard it is, it can still be good for you. Like, tough love. And sometimes if it's too easy, it's not. Because it doesn't teach you a lesson a lot of times.
Yeah, it gets back to that idea of you need to do the work, which we touched on in the other video, which is that it's shadow work for a reason.
But at the same time, it's not like we always have to be slamming our raw wounds against something. You know what I mean? Like,
again, you can say that with
the whole practice of this is to know yourself and to know your limits and lack thereof.
It's interesting how we put a negative connotation on the word work as well, thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because for me, with my job, the store and everything that comes with it, I love doing work. And some people are like, signs or whatever. But I'm like, no, if you put me in a 9-to-5 job, I would hate it. So work really is one of those interesting ones that in modern society, we've all been programmed to be like, work is something that we have to do and we're not going to enjoy it, but we have to do it to survive.
Yeah.
And then the truth of it is, well, actually, you should be doing what you're here to do and what you love doing and what it is that you are meant to be doing. Not what you've been told to do, not what you think you should do, but what you genuinely are here to do. And there's a huge difference. And with shadow work, that's true as well, because if you're doing the shadow work that you're meant to be doing at any given point, versus trying to force yourself into doing shadow work, which I think is one huge misconception that we will talk about, which is, it's time for the dark half of the year, we must do shadow work, which is timing and when to do shadow work and things. If you're trying to force yourself into shadow work rather than allowing shadow work to flow through you, then it's, again, like slamming your head into a brick wall. because you're trying to force something because you think you should, or you've been told you ought to, or I don't know. I mean, I understand that people are like, oh, it's working with the seasons and the light and the dark half of the year, and then I'm like, yeah, but that's not a very flexy way of thinking about it, is it?
Because you can see, because we're over here like, what is time?
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started. Time is not.
What is time, man?
Time is a human construct. Oh no, don't get me started, because we will be full on.
I already have. I
know. And I understand that people like to structure spiritual work around that. I know, like the seasons and the moon phases and things. But I'm always like, well, with shadow work in particular, shadow work isn't just about dark half of the year, dark shadows. And me and Cris have talked about light shadows a fair bit, because there are definitely light shadows and then dark shadows. And that's terming them into boxes for ease of phrase. Yeah. But basically being seen versus being hidden away, because the light shadows are very much about fear and resistance and discomfort with regards to people seeing who you are. Yeah. So shadow work can come and happen and at any given time, and it can last any given length of time as well. It can be years. Like working with silver birch is something that I did when I was starting the shadow process, which I'm going to write about properly, I promise. And I thought it was going to be maybe a month, because I was thinking like silver birch month, like in the modern Celtic OM tree calendar.
Yeah, that's funny. That was funny.
No, it was a whole year, and I've only just moved into the second one, so yeah. The idea that we can do shadow work in X amount of time versus when we should do it is a huge misconception for me. Yeah. And I don't know how I feel about it. Sometimes it bothers me slightly that everybody's like, right, dark half of the year, time to talk about death and shadow work and ghosts. And I'm like, me and Cris are here like we've been doing this all year round. Like,
well, I think my attitude on it is pretty much like, you know, sweet, you got on the hayride, cool. Because I mean, for me, this dips into ancestral healing a lot, and you know, as we heal ourselves, we heal all other things because we're a part of all other things, and at least from my belief perspectives. And so the more people that are doing this, the better to me. But I just wish that people realized that it didn't have to be one part of the year. You could do it all the time, because I mean, it's more about your relationship with yourself and being aware, you know thyself, which
Yep, absolutely. We got any comments or questions? Because I can't see them.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff in chat going on. Let's see. Pantaria says, funny how shadow work and doing what you're supposed to do sometimes is so related. In my life, the more, oh dear, it moved. In my life, the more shadow work I did, the more of me that came home back to myself. I could not deny my passions anymore. So like the more she
I really love the fact that you use the word passion with regards to shadow work, because I think when people talk about shadow work, they talk about this difficult trial and task and blah, 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 and they forget about the passion side of it. We do these things because we want to be better, more passionate versions of ourselves. We want to know ourselves better. We want to understand ourselves better. We want to grow, evolve. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that, and we talk about shadow work in terms of like, oh, I must do this thing. And people don't maybe really understand why they should be. Like, there's not enough of it should be. Inverted commas. Like, people aren't fully aware of the benefit rather than the obligation to the time of the year, and because everybody else is talking thinking about it and doing it. And maybe like the real purpose of shadow work gets lost a bit amidst the whole kind of trending time of year, trending because other people are talking about it, and people kind of look over and like, should I be doing this? And what is it? And then the kind of the real benefit gets lost a little bit. But I love that she talked about passion there. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I pulled the chat out really big because you guys are like going for it in the chat today, which I love. But I need it big so I can keep up with everything. Let's see. Yeah, and Pantaria says in response to that, there is a freedom on your side, a heart that opens up to the world again, in my experience.
I think shadow work makes us more empathetic to other people. Because the more that we delve, I mean, we have to be careful because it can be easy to become only looking in the mirror because shadow work is obviously introspective. So, but it can mean you feel much more empathetic with the suffering of fellow human beings. And I think this is true for empathic people anyway, because you're aware of how connected we all are. We're aware there is no separation, this great ecosystem of duality. And we're aware of the suffering and then the reasons for suffering of other individuals. And if we've been going through shadow work and then we see somebody else lashing out from a place of pain, we can be more understanding. We don't have to accept being attacked as a result of emotional lashing out because of pain and things, but we can offer
we have more masks that we've worn, so we can relate to them more.
Yeah, and we can kind of empathize with another individual's suffering and be like, well, I've been there, so I understand how frustrating it is, but not exactly, because no two people experience any situation the same, but I can empathize even if I don't completely understand.
Oh, this is a good point. Rebel Child Tarot says, my shadow work and self-love journeys are very intertwined. Does anyone else experience this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a few videos about self-love and what that actually means. Not recently. Well,
your Healing Witch ones recently.
Healing
kind of touched on it too.
Yeah, it does. So if you want to hear me talk more at length about self-love and different aspects of that, the Healing Witch stuff is on my channel. But shadow work is self-love. Because you're learning to love all the parts of yourself.
Right. You're learning to love the unloved.
Yeah.
Which is learning to love the unloved parts of you. Learning to love yourself. So yeah, self-care, self-love, reclaiming, all that kind of stuff comes into it.
And self-love can be tough love as well. Because you can talk about self-love, and I mean, I've touched on this, but sometimes
it's almost like a coddling.
Yeah. That self-love gets portrayed as like taking it easy on yourself, and sometimes that's needed, but sometimes you need to kick your own ass. And you need to motivate yourself, and you need to stop wallowing in excuse rather than progress. And it's a really weird dynamic within spiritual circles that we talk about. It's kind of like the people who are promote love and light, but then they won't address the other side of it. And it's like, well, you have to be good to yourself. You have to care about yourself. And it's like, sometimes caring about yourself is
it's saying, pull your britches up, lady. Let's go.
Yeah. Or you can do better than this. You know you can do better than this.
Why are you settling?
Fire to something.
I'm just lighting some incense.
And sometimes it's a little bit more of a shadow perspective, self-love.
Yeah.
I may blog about that.
Shay Jenkins. Okay. Wondering how you go about breaching those natural barriers you come across when doing your shadow work. It gets very frustrating knowing what you need to do, but not knowing how to do it.
Well, you can join us for our podcast because we'll be talking about this at length. Anyway.
Yeah. Well.
Shameless plugging.
Oh boy.
Seriously, podcast, you know.
Yeah, true. We're going to be having a podcast come up. And also I do shadow work mentorship. But what I was going to say, though, is that is a limitation.
That's a self-imposed limitation.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's a self-imposed limitation that you're doing right there. Because listen, it gets very frustrating when you, what you need to do, but not knowing how to do it. Are we ever put here not knowing how to do something, really, when it comes down to just doing it? It's you.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had a moment of psychic kind of boomf, which has been happening to me all month when people tell me like an issue. I don't know if it's because like veil thinning or it's me expanding or both.
It's both, probably.
But the kind of thing that came to mind there was the idea of you not knowing what to do because you're placing too much emphasis on what other people expect you to do rather than listening to your intuitive self. So it feels like that block is coming from listening to how other people do shadow work rather than listening to your intuition on how you want to do shadow work. Which
right there is basically what I said is you already know. You're just not listening.
Trust yourself. Yep. The answer is
and that's something that takes a little while anyway, to trust yourself. That's something you have to build.
And experiment. Experiment with different techniques, journaling, meditation, dream analysis, listing even, you know, you can list all sides of a situation until you find the middle path.
And I have to say, Shakti Shaman said, I find not forcing what you're working on helps. And that's the truth. Like the more you focus on the thing that's blocking you, the more you empower the thing that's blocking you, which in this case is you. So if you just kind of like stop focusing on that, let things go how they're supposed to, get into that flow, you'll find that you're listening a little clearer to your own gut, and things will just happen to the signs that come through. There is no one way to shadow work. That's another one. There's no one way. Every single person is different. Every single person has their own things, their own triggers, their own kind of a situational makeup that they work through. And what may work for Joey might not work for me. We could have essentially the same shadow, but we need to work with it in completely different ways.
Yeah. And that follows onto something that I was thinking, which is don't be afraid to tailor fit your own shadow work. Don't feel that you have to follow any one path down the rabbit hole, and don't be afraid to think outside the box, because if something really works for you, and just because you haven't heard it anywhere, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about how other people are doing it. It matters what works for you. So don't be afraid to come up with your own program.
Yeah. Jilcy Poe says, I had to face my deepest shadows after losing my son. In facing those, I healed and have helped others that have also lost infants. I know those feels, Jilcy. I did not lose a son, which I'm sorry to hear that. But when my dad died, how I dealt with the grief was turning it into becoming a death midwife so I could help people. And in a similar sense with shadow work, what's this face you're making? Sorry. In a similar sense with shadow work, you can turn the pain, or the perceived pain even sometimes with shadow work, into your strength, into your power, into the thing that like you help other people with. I mean, that's why I do the mentorship that I do now, is because of that stuff that happened. You know, is because I see a lot of people struggling in spirituality also and not really knowing where to go and stuff. That's why I do what I do, because I've been there, and you have as well, Josie. So I commend you for helping people.
I have 2 points with that one.
Yep, go ahead.
The first one is that that again is taking shadow work and pain and realizing that we are all connected in this great ecosystem of spirituality. The threads that we touch and pull on affect and touch on other people. And Cris is basically wearing her ecosystem shirt right now.
That's why I was grinning.
Yeah. That's basically how we see it.
Like, it looks kind of like paint, but it's root system to me.
But the other thing I am going to say, and I commend everybody who does take their pain and helps other people. But I'm going to say from a personal perspective, because I've done this too, not in the same way. Mine's abuse orientated rather than grieving orientated.
But you help people with that as well.
Yeah. But we have to be careful not to take the pain entirely outside of ourselves. And focus entirely on other individuals rather than our own experiences. We have to be careful with that. Because a lot of us are very caring, giving individuals, but it can also be slightly easier to help other people through their pain rather than to fully work through elements of our own pain. And I say this with love, and I say this from personal perspective because I've done it. So just be aware that when working outside of the self with shadow work, you have to make sure that you are reflecting as well on the inward. So within, so without.
One and the same. Letting yourself suffer is cleansing, Random says.
Sure,
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna wait.
Oh, you're gonna wait?
No, because I felt you do that. Like,
It depends, because if you let yourself suffer.
Wait, she says you have to know. She continued that thought. You have to know, start healing after suffering.
I don't think I'm okay with the word suffering, because I don't know. I mean, what is suffering? Like, is suffering giving an emotional response a really negative sticker, basically? Because feeling and struggling through emotional situations and all of that, we can't live there. And the problem with suffering is that it can be poisonous if we do not deal with all of that. And I don't know that it is cleansing by itself. I think that there is a balance to feeling an emotional response, and it really truly depends on the individual. It depends what suffering means to an individual, because it's all perspective again. But I think that,
and even furthermore, what healing means to be individual.
We have to be careful not to. Okay, this is a dark goddess thing, and we have to be careful not to glorify pain and suffering all the time, because I think there is definitely an element with shadow work, with dark gods and goddesses and all that kind of energy, that sometimes we can glorify pain and suffering. And it's not necessarily that we mean to. We just like, we need to find the positive in this. We need to say, hey, we went through this really fucking awful thing. We survived it. We're proud we survived it. It made us stronger. And here is what I learned. And here is how I can help other people. But we have to be careful that we don't glorify constantly being in a headspace of trauma or You need the balance of all things, because you can still have, you know, your happiness, your laughter, your silliness within dark goddess, dark god. Even in shadow work, I think laughter is very important. So we have to be careful we don't glorify the struggle too much. We can take pride, but we don't want to get stuck in that process, if that makes sense.
She says, it's like cutting the wound around a snake bite. You have to hurt more in order to heal sometimes. Just where I had to go for a while, now the source of it holds less power over me.
Oh, Cris, have you gone?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. I lost you for a minute
there. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you guys hear me out there?
Can you see us both?
I can see you.
You can see me. I can see you now, but I lost you there for a second.
Oh, okay. Did you hear what I was reading?
I got about half of it, and then you disappeared.
It's like cutting the wound around a snake bite. Yeah, they say yes, we can hear me. Okay, I heard you. We can hear me. Yeah. It's like cutting the wound around a snake bite. You have to hurt more in order to heal sometimes. Just where I had to go for a while. Now the source of it holds less power over me.
Again, it's every situation is unique. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's not. It's all an individual experience of pain and how we react to it and how we feel. And
oh, they're saying we're both good. Okay.
Okay, good.
I'm told I'm a bit blurry. It looks clear to me.
Well, I'm on my iPad, so it's difficult for me to tell because
But no, I think there's a time to pull your britches up and just step in, as I said earlier, and kind of be prepared to bear the brunt. Oh, she's good now. Okay, cool. But there's also a time when, like, you know, I guess the whole bottom line of all of that is, like, is it worth it to you? Like, why are you in here? Like, are you in here because of the fact that you're settling, or you're scared that there's something else and, you know, it won't accept you, or you won't be able to do that, or like, or failure? Or are you doing that because of that? Or are you staying here doing this because you're like, no, I want to be done with this. Let's face it head on and just, like, do this.
Not that you can ever be done with it, but yeah.
Well, not done with this, but you get what I mean. Like, this whole, like, no, I'm gonna submerge myself because I'm gonna face it, and, like, let's do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
Let's do the work. Yeah. It's
so I mean, really, it's the reason.
Your own bullshit is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, where, like, they were talking earlier about having someone else do stuff for you. Sometimes, like, having a friend, and in the last live show we had, we talked about this, is how sometimes it can be helpful to have someone else that can, like, mirror you back. Because sometimes if we can't call ourselves on our own bullshit, our best friend can. Or a stranger, even. A total stranger can. Wayward Flower says, I think the scariest part of shadow work is jumping in. Sometimes we do just need to step in and we stop ourselves. Yeah.
There's an interesting misconception that we could talk about, is the fact that we always have to have, like, a definite start to shadow work. Sometimes we've been doing shadow work and we don't even realize we've been doing it until we suddenly sit and really think about the work that we've been doing. And if you have a kind of fear of beginning shadow work, this is a really helpful way of doing it, because suddenly you realize you've already been doing it. You're already there. You're already succeeding. You're already working through it. You're already evaluating. You're already progressing. And once you realize you've already done something, you don't have to be afraid of starting it anymore.
Yeah, very true. I mean, how often do we sit and think about, you know, maybe something that we did that maybe we shouldn't have. Like, oh man, I could have, like, if I just had a redo on that, I would have done it in another way. Like, in a way, that has aspects of shadow work in it, because you're analyzing yourself and what your choices were and why you made those choices. And next time, if it comes up, you're going to make those same choices.
And another thing that ties into this a little bit is a learning that sometimes shadow work is about forgiveness. Like, forgive yourself. And I don't think that gets brought up enough. Like, I have to look back at my teenage years and think sometimes as a teenager I was not nice to other teenage girls. And I mean, there's elements of they weren't nice to me either, but we're only responsible for ourselves. But I got to a point where I was like, you know what, you can't keep beating yourself up for who you were as a teenager. You have to forgive yourself and know that you're not the same person anymore. So there's definitely an element of that comes in. Go on. What is it?
I wanted to talk on. Okay, so I have this issue as well, Jilsey. Jilsey says, in my experience, people get uncomfortable when levity is interjected into sad situations. My boy is in an urn on a shelf, and when someone asks me what is in the urn, I say a baby. When they ask what kind, my reply is a dead one, in a joking tone. Others did not find any humor. So something that, I mean, I already kind of knew because I grew up, I was a nurse's daughter, and nurses have a very unique sense of humor anyway. But that I learned even more so in going through the depression and mourning my dad, is that I think the reason that happens is because people aren't sure how to deal with it. Like, it scares them to think of that, to think that it could happen to them. They don't want to insult you by laughing, even if it looks like you're laughing, because they're like, is this a trick? I don't know what's happening. It's the whole topic of death in general that has been made really uncomfortable and unapproachable in society. So when you bring it up in a way that is perhaps a bit lighter or from the hip, people don't know what to do with it because they've been taught to do otherwise. But the truth is that, and I'm sure you know this, Jilsey, for people that are dealing with that kind of thing, sometimes laughter can be the best medicine. To find that break in the cloud, just to be like, and laugh and take a breath is a blessing.
Yeah, it's powerful shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my mom once told me, like, some of the most powerful magic you'll ever use is laughter. It can do a lot of things. It can make, it can deflect a whole bunch. It can lighten you up. It can spread to other people. Some pretty powerful shit. But yeah, facing our own mortality, Gargoyle Mistress. Yeah. But see, so there's a connotation of that in shadow work, because it's like we have to go in and face these deep, dark depths of our soul, and we'll never return from it. It's possible that we'll never come back, and will we? I don't know. It's almost like a death of the self. Is what you're saying. But I don't see it so much as a death of the self as a death of the things that are not self. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's what's that quote, which is like, maybe it's not about becoming but unlearning the things that getting back to who we truly are. I really like that analogy, that we were always who we were meant to be. It's just that along the way we've been told we're not so much, that we've built up these kind of defense mechanisms and bad habits and so on and so forth to fit in or whatever it is. And maybe it's about peeling back those layers and becoming comfortable with who we were in the first place.
Yeah.
Also, it can be really good to kind of laugh in shadow work, because I've found a way of laughing at the ridiculousness of myself. Like, sometimes that when you're taking a situation so seriously.
Was that on my end?
Yeah.
I have no idea what that was.
Spirits moving shit around.
Probably. Yeah, because it sounded like a dragging.
Yeah.
Through my earphone.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like, shut up, Jerry. Drag, drag, drag.
Christina is now screaming deconditioning in all caps.
Yeah. But sometimes it's good to laugh at the ridiculousness of it all, like at the ridiculousness of the human nature that we get caught up on these things and just see the crazy sometimes and giggle about it, just laugh at it and just poke fun at ourselves. Because I tell you what,
Beanbag Hagwag says, sometimes if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I often choose laughter. I am in nursing. We are a sick bunch. You have to be. You guys deal with stuff 24/7.
As much as this is going to sound like an oxymoron and it's possibly fluxy thinking, if you can ridicule yourself, you are actually empowering yourself. Because you take away the ability for anyone else to ridicule you about the things that you've already made fun of yourself for. And rather than it going to a dark place, inverted commas, dark place, you can laugh at that situation. And if someone's like about an aspect of yourself and you've already made light of it within yourself and you've already giggled about it, but yourself, you're like, yes, I know, I'm good. And there's something empowering in that.
Yeah. Shakti, that's actually what you're talking about is something that we often refer as like offshoots of the light shadow, as we like to phrase it. She says, I think another misconception is that all the things you face in the shadows are negative. Fear of success, fear of accepting love into your life can also be shadow issues. Yeah, because, well, I mean, there's like we just said about the light shadow, fear of being seen. You know, sometimes it's not even about like not trusting the world. It's about trusting yourself to be able to handle all these blessings that you might receive.
It's, oh God, Impostor Syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Impostor Syndrome in one of the other chats, where you feel like if you're getting all this love or you're getting all of this success and you feel like you don't deserve it, you're afraid that people are going to see you and then realize that you don't deserve it. And that's Impostor Syndrome. And we've talked about that in a whole chat by itself.
But okay, so the thing with shadow though is that it's not something because a lot of people say, and Shakti, I know what you meant when you said this, but this is a good example right in front of my face. The word face it, to face our shadows, right? Which I said earlier even, it makes it sound like it's a versus, like you versus yourself kind of shit. And it's not this like battle royale that's going on. it's like it's you. It's yourself. Like you can't do that with yourself. Like it's teamwork. And that means that recognizing the strength in your quote unquote opponent and the reason that they're there, you know, they serve a purpose in your life. And when we push it to the side and things become compressed, it just rages out. And then we're like, what's this? What's going on? Get back in the box, you know? But that it's not listening. There's no listening back and forth between it. There's no want to understand. And shadow work is wanting to understand that, is trying to shadow cage match. It's trying to, I'm just the picture in my head now. No, it's trying to accept the sides, because it's not like they even need to merge, because they're already you. They're already in you. But it's to see the power and the strength that you have in other ways.
Yeah. See the beauty of the shadow.
Yeah.
And I wrote down here as you were talking that the misconception in there as well is that the shadow parts of ourselves are useless. Yeah. Like they're in the way, there's no purpose.
Yeah, we'll get rid of them and then we'll be able to, you know, what was it? I described it to, I had a coworker who was doing shadow work. Right. Okay. And he would always turn it into this big cage match thing. And one day I was like, so you're the white knight going in? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, don't white knights get kind of righteous sometimes? And he was like, well, and I'm like, well, you know, if they don't think of other points of view and stuff, like, how can they speak for everyone? And he just kind of sat with it. And then he came back to me like 2 days later and was like, so I was thinking about it. But like, that's what I mean. Like, everything has a downside, if you will, quote unquote, and a good side, if you will, quote unquote. But that's still like an illusion of like the dichotomy, the separation, because it's all one. Yeah. It's all gray. Just figure out what works for you. I'm gonna eat this carrot. Go on, Joey.
You go. So I was gonna say, I can't see anything else other than Cris eating. Is that sometimes our shadows are basically things that we need to know, things that we need to relearn, things that we need to embrace about ourselves. Sometimes things that we perceive to be shadow aren't necessarily even like what we perceive shadow to be. So we've decided that certain parts of ourselves are less desirable, for example. So what happens if actually something that you've kind of bottled up as a shadow is actually a really powerful part of your individuality? What if that's something that you're meant to be embodying and it's not, you know, it's not a negative thing? So let's say that you were outspoken as a kid and you've been told time and time and time again that you're bossy and that you're loud, to the point that you've buried that within yourself and turned it into a shadow part of yourself, that you no longer speak up for yourself because that loud bossy thing is a shadow thing, it's a bad thing, and you've repressed it. Well, what if instead of looking at it as being bossy, you look at it as being empowered and taking charge and being in control of yourself and giving things a voice? And when you recover that part of yourself, which is effectively shadow work, you're actually empowering yourself and taking back elements of yourself that were true to begin with, which is what we talked about earlier.
And how? Okay, so in chat, people are saying your shadow can be a strength. The Gargoyle Mistress said that. Jilzy says, I strongly feel that without shadow, there would be too much light. We would become overexposed, eventually burning out and fading away. The shadow can also be protective.
Do you know what I was thinking as you were saying that? I think shadow is actually depth. Can you imagine how like shallow living it would be if we didn't ever think about the difficult things or the complicated things or the things that we are unsure of and uncertain of and confused about? And do you think how boring life would be if we were all like, no, it's light and fluffy all the time, and no, I'm all for being silly and stupid because, you know, it's me. But like, seriously, I think shadow is depth.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not so much black and white as it is depth. That just reminds me of the black water.
Mm.
Yeah.
You guys will find out about the black water.
Well, yeah, you'll know later. I think that really is. Okay, Shay Jenkins says, I think that really is the biggest misconception, that it has to be a battle, a fight to the end. What a wonderful revelation to see that it is more of a reunion. Yeah, so when you said a fight to the end, I just thought of like the knight, like it's merely a flesh wound. Like, yeah, it's one that doesn't die. If you keep trying it that way, you're gonna be like, why won't he die? Yeah, exactly. Weirdest family reunion ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's definitely a strength in that side. I mean, like you said about the person that is, you know, when they speak up very boldly, you know, and suppressing that, that's also, you know, the strength in rediscovering that person in you that you were, and being able to use both sides, because now you've learned also to be silent and still and you know, maneuver through the world. So now you have both.
Mm-hmm. And I talk from personal experience because this is something that happened to me, is that as a child, naturally, I was an oldest child. I was a natural leader. I was loud and inverted commas, bossy and all the rest of it. And it got repressed to the point where I went the complete opposite, where I was bullied all the time and I was introverted and I would never speak up and I would never speak for myself and I wouldn't talk in class. And now I'm somewhere in the middle. Still working on it. Still working on it, because certain situations I still don't want to talk. New people, I'm like...
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Down the rabbit hole says cute ears. Thanks. We did not plan this.
No. Mine are kind of hidden because my hair's doing its crazy witch thing. There we go. You can see my ears now.
Yeah. Okay, so other misconceptions. Let's see. I'll think another misconception is that all things... Oh, I already read that one. My bad. There's so many, guys. That's awesome. But yeah. Tis but a nick. Yes, Shay. Tis but a nick. Okay, so then we've touched on, like, it's bad. We touched on...
I can do another one if we want one. I have.
Yeah, do one. Throw it out. What's next?
The first thing that I wrote down was the idea that shadow work is purely singular and isolation.
Yeah,
rather than there being a collective shadow and collective shadows in society and across culture and periods in time, even. Because we touched on it in mine when Molly actually brought up, in response to something that I was talking about, the collective shadows that...
Ooh. Okay, yes, go on. Just remind me of random, because she's got a good one too.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
Anyway, that's all I'm going to see now. Oh no.
It's too late. We've gone too far.
Yep. There is the point of no return. Anyway.
Past the point of no return. Sorry.
At the level of your eyes. No, right. Okay.
No.
Anyway, no.
Welcome to a live chat with us.
Phantom of the Opera, anyone?
Shakti
anyway.
says that this is her first live chat that she's caught on YouTube.
Oh dear. I apologize.
We've ruined you.
This is how me and Cris do. It's like serious singing. And then, yeah. So.
But it's fun having you. I'm glad that we got to be your first one.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to be your first.
She's saying thank you for letting us pop your cherry. Anyway.
Yes. YouTube live cherry.
Oh, 3, 2, 1 back in the room. Anyway, collective shadow.
Yes.
So we talk about shadow work as if it's always individual, as in it's always our own internalization of aspects of self. But we don't really tend to talk about collective shadows in society as much. And we talked about, was it talking about the female way of looking at physique, I think is what we were talking about.
I think so. It was somewhere in that area.
And it's an easy one to kind of bring forth as an example that women should be seen and not heard. And that evolves into women are playthings, and women should be pretty, and women should look a certain way, and women should be non-offensive and benign, and yeah.
I want to be pretend.
I want to be otherworldly and a little bit unholy and a little bit cute. So somewhere in the middle of those.
Somewhere in the middle.
And
thank you, Susie. She said to Shakti, the best live chats on YouTube are right here with Cris and Joey, in my opinion.
Aww.
No. You're a couple of nuts. Thank you, Beanbag, for keeping it real.
You know.
Anyway, yes. No, that's really good. Like community shadows.
Yeah, and you know that women. I tell you what's a good one for shadow work of the sexes is that women are too emotional and blah blah blah, and men shouldn't be emotional.
They should be stoic.
Yeah.
And emotionless.
Yeah, and that's a really good cultural shadow. Like,
and how much dysfunction does that really put out when, like, we're all human and we're all a combination of all of those?
Yeah.
So now I have to take all the emotions of the world?
Yeah.
I call bullshit. And then be chastised for doing it.
Mm. And women who are impassioned and emboldened and something matters to them, they're too emotional.
Ooh, random. You'd be prettier if you smiled. Sorry. Yeah, did you hear the tongue thing?
Yeah, that's my annoyed noise because I know all about that.
Yep. That's when you smile with a middle finger.
What was the one that you wanted that Random brought up earlier? And you
went right, yes. Okay, so the one that Random brought up was misconception. If you do not focus on shadow work, you will never grow. I think that's a good one. That implication there, yeah, because there is that implication of, like, if you don't do shadow work, like do it like how people think of doing it, then you'll never grow.
And it's a little bit like when we were talking about earlier, the fact that you can have been doing shadow work without even realizing you've been doing shadow work.
Right. So really, like, it's there's two layers to it. The first layer is like, well, we're always doing shadow work technically. And then the second layer is, you know, you'll never grow. If we're always doing it, then we're always growing anyway. I'm just saying.
There is a problem with spiritual judgment. That's a cultural shadow within the spiritual community. You must do it this way.
Right. Well, and that even, I mean, that's even within, like, the pagan YouTube community, especially. You can see examples of, like, well, that's not right, or that's not how my mentor taught me, or da-da-da, so that's not the right way. Or that's not what my research found, so that's not the right way. Sometimes the people that are doing things aren't basing it on research. They're basing it on, like, their spiritual connections and conversations they've had with their posse, if you will. Their, you know, posse. I call them my spiritual posse. So, like, you know, them.
Yeah.
And sometimes people do both, and sometimes people are all book. Different ways, different people, different methods. But you can see that right here in this, when it's like, you know, when someone, I don't know, give me an example, Joey.
You can use my example if you want, where I run into the Reconstructionist because I take perspective. So for anyone who doesn't know, I take an evolutionary perspective with the Morrigan, and I love mythology, and I love lore, and I love all of the history that we do have. However, I'm a historian by trade, I guess, about training anyway, and so I know all the problems with putting too much stock in the past and what we know of the past, and I don't believe that gods are static. I believe that gods evolve alongside humanity and adapt to different elements of humanity. Plus, humans evolve and adapt, and the way we perceive deity changes with us. So, I think that we're symbiotic. I don't think that gods are, like, completely outside of ourselves and never evolve and never change and never adapt. I feel like we are interlinked, we're interwoven, we are not disconnected from.
Oh my gosh, I mentioned something like that in a video a long time ago. So much hate. So much hate, all in one place. Yeah, but for me, I was just mentioning that, like, they feed us and we feed them. It's both ways. And the notion that it was both ways just, like, pissed the world off. I don't know.
Well, surely gods wouldn't be involved with us if they didn't get something from it.
I'm saying. Yeah. No, Shafty says, where was it? It was just here. Oh my gosh.
I've pulled some cards for this, by the way.
Yeah, I figured. I had them in my hands because they were like, ee! I stress going off the book, or I stress going off book for a lot of spiritual work for that exact same reason, Cris. Yeah, I've kind of had to make peace with the fact that not only do I not fit a stereotype, most people naturally don't fit one either on here, especially.
Oh, that's a whole kettle of fish.
Yep.
Yeah. But people want
to. There you go.
But the problem is that people want to, and people will present themselves as it, and well,
that goes into shadow work too, though. Is like, what are you supposed to look like? What is shadow work supposed to look like? What are you supposed to do for shadow work? How's it supposed to be? Do we all have to be this like gothic maiden in the dark with 10,000 candles around us, going like, I invoke the shadow? Like, it's already in you.
Everyone about my
weakness. But, yeah. Anyway, now we're talking about ancestors, so I'm like, yes, go on.
My ears are pricking up.
Yeah. I also find shadow work has been helping me work with life to death ancestral working, meaning I have a hate-on relationship with my father, but I've been trying to work with the paternal lineage and my paternal grandmother, who I know and has also passed, as well as my father, are both barriers I need to get past, to work with and connect with those ancestors. Yeah, shadow work can totally go into ancestral stuff. And I mean, like, for me, ancestral healing and stuff, like I talked about earlier, it's very interwoven anyway. But, there is this belief, and we're going to get on the whole, like, veil thing right now.
Okay.
There is this belief that because it is October, the veil is thinner. Do you know why the veil is thinner? Because you believe it's thinner. Because it's always thin. It's always thin. They're always there. They're always around. They're always talking. You just got to listen. And the fact that we think that we have to do this, like, deep, in-depth thing to go see them when we have their blood in our blood. Literally. We are already linked. We are already them.
There is no separation.
It's, like, crazy to me. And yeah, that means, like, some of them you're not going to have a good relationship with, and you're going to have to, like, make your peace with that, but that's also part of ancestral healing. And, Shakti was just talking about, and that can be dipping into your own shadows and seeing what of that is your responsibility and what of that is theirs, and how do you feel with what was left over. But yeah, it's not this big far away trip. They are literally right there all the time. I'm off my soapbox. Carry on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Curling iron. Just pretend it's a mic. Cris out. Oh my goodness.
That's why you should have ended the live stream.
Now I'm tangled.
So you should have ended the live stream before the aftermath.
I wasn't ready. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think I killed Joey.
No, I was just finding it hilarious. You got all tangled up, and it was like, this is my cool moment, followed by help.
Yeah.
But yeah, shadow work can be ancestral based for certain. When I first really contacted my ancestors, I had to do backward healing work, and it was healing me and my shadow and the pain of the disconnect within ancestral work as well. So
yeah. Shakti, what a mic drop is like when you've said what you need to say and you're done and you're just like leaving it like on a strong point, like, yeah, and boom, just drop it. It's kind of like being done with stuff and like piecing out, like just leaving, like, I'm done, bye, and then walking off. That's what the mic drop is.
Did we just explain the joke as well?
We totally just explained the joke, but it's cool, man. People don't know.
The tangled up bit is not usually what follows.
Because I do not. Wait, what was the first part of? Okay, so I can't find the beginning of this random, but she says, "I am worthy, I am wise," and I'm feeling that statement. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strong, yeah. Gotta get hipper. Yeah, see, there you go. Now you know that's what a mic drop is. Not a problem. That's what we do here at Cris and Joey's channel.
Fill your heads with random information.
What is shadow work? Also, this is a mic drop.
And which bit will you remember from this conversation later?
Oh, she says, because I do not have a traditional job and I do not have a good education, I must be lazy and stupid. That's what Random said. That's why she said, I am worthy, I am wise. That's a shadow. Absolutely. She's leaning and doing the face.
I'm thinking.
I can tell.
I wonder how often self-worth is the beginning of shadow work. That's what I was thinking about. Because a feeling of lack often pokes at our shadow. Not always, but often.
Yeah. Well, in some degree, somewhere, yeah. No matter what it is that happens. So, that's going to be a long explanation. Never mind. Well, all right. So, growing up, my mom at her drummings always talked about the double heartbeat. I don't know if you've heard me talk about this yet, Joey. Maybe not.
I think so.
So basically, when you are in the womb, there's two heartbeats. There's yours as the baby, and then there's mom. And when we were born, it's said that we spend our life searching for the second heartbeat. Okay. And I wonder how much of shadow work is really just trying to find that, trying to line up with essentially the earth again, because that's what the double heartbeat would be. Trying to line up with hearing everything and being in alignment, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. And that ties into ancestor thing because of going into the womb energy.
Mm-hmm. And to do that, they say that you have to be in TOA, which is the stillness. And it's listening and going within. And without, because it's same shit.
All interlinked.
Yes. Oh gosh, there's okay. I'm the same line as would that be like a cultural shadow? Speaking as to random stuff.
What, self-worth?
Well, because of the fact that like she doesn't have a traditional job and what she calls a good education. So
right, well, I was having a conversation the other day about how the way that our job situation is in modern world is fucked. Because if you think about how we used to structure when we were tribal, generally speaking, there was more of a caste system thing that came into play. And throughout history, there's been more of a caste system thing that has given people an idea of who they are and what they're meant to be. It's not without its problems. I'm not saying it's a better way of being. And now we have a situation whereby theoretically anybody can be anything. It's not actually the case because there are things that stop people being whoever they want to be. But the problem with society as it is right now is it's hugely isolationary. So you used to have these tribes that would work together, and people would hunt, and people would gather, and people would build, and people would look after the kids. But there was a community, and everybody came together and did all of those jobs to survive. Now it's very much like work is outside of the self, it's outside of the community a lot of the time, and it's something that, like I was saying earlier, we feel we have to do, and we are even trained.
Not only to that extent is it outside of that, but it actually becomes like where your family is nowadays too. Like staying at home and being with your family is seen as like almost novelty to me in a lot of ways in society, because it's always like, no, you should be wanting to work harder, work faster, work longer hours, get that money.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not. Oh, well, then you don't want a promotion. Oh, you want a promotion? We're going to need you here 24/7 then.
Yeah. And there is this element of complete lack of fulfillment when it comes to most job spaces. And I struggled with the shadow of rejecting that whole thing because I didn't want to do any of that, because I didn't want a 9-to-5 job, because my back is screwed up. And if I do 9-to-5 work, it hurts like a motherfucker and I can't walk. And people wouldn't believe me, and like I tried to get the doctors to sign off on it, but because I could walk around fine otherwise, that, you know, and backs are one of these things that they don't fully understand anyway. And I struggled with it because I was highly intelligent. I did have a proper, inverted commas, education. I was top of the class for everything. I went to university up to diploma level. But I didn't want to fit into the cog of the machine, I feel like. I wanted to be a spiritual business owner. I wanted to do something that mattered to me. And I still struggle sometimes with the repercussions of that, because people don't understand it anymore. People are so ingrained into the 9-to-5. You have to do this, you have to. And Darren could tell you more about this even, because like his whole entire family don't like the fact that he does what he does for a business, and they try and stop him doing it even though he's successful at it. So it's weird. It's not, I don't know that it's cultural, because it happens a lot of different places.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so for me, it's that whole, like, the Dalai Lama quote that's like, man sacrifices his health to make money so that, like, one day he can, like, live really nice. So essentially what he's doing is he's sacrificing today for a tomorrow he's never promised. And so he dies, or he lives having never really, thinking he'll never die, and dies having never really lived. And that's kind of part of that in the society, I think, is the part of like, oh, well, we'll get to hang out with our family, you know, once we get this really nice job, and then we'll have the time. But the reality is when you get that really nice job, there's usually a bunch of paperwork and other stuff you got to do with it.
Yeah, it's more likely that you're going to be more busy.
And it's like, why are we putting our hopes on the next day instead of just taking a moment even to experience today? That doesn't mean stopping necessarily, but that does mean like taking a breather with it and making time. And that was a big flaw for me that I saw, and that's why I changed my work as well. That doesn't mean that working is bad, but it's different things for different people.
There is a level of people don't think they can enjoy what they do as well.
Yeah,
that people think that they must work in an environment that
Bye, Kitty. Like. She has to get back to work.
Bye.
No, yeah, Shakti says borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. No, exactly. I know that saying. You're a cog in the machine to feed the shareholders, it says. They push the idea of working hard to get ahead, but you're not getting ahead. You are living for their dream, not yours.
Yeah. It's Fight Club. You know the Fight Club line about we work ourselves to death for shit we don't need, and that.
Yeah.
You're not your fucking khakis. Anyway.
Work shouldn't describe who one is, as long as one knows in life they did everything they could with what they had. What they have, you should be right when you return. When returning to your maker, we can only do what we can.
And yet, how do most of us define who we are in modern society?
Boom.
Who are you and what do you do?
Yep. What do I want? What's on the plate? Okay. No. It hurt my head. Sorry.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm just talking to my incense. Don't worry about it. If there was ever a place for me to say that without sounding crazy, this is it.
Mm-hmm. 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 Would you guys like to see the 2 cards I pulled?
Yes. Talk the cards. Talk the cards.
So I pulled these 2 cards. The second card is slightly nudie, so there's a slight nude warning for the second one. But the first card is really good. Okay.
Ooh.
So we've got passion.
Hold on, let me click you so it stays on you. There we go.
Okay. So we've got passion and then struggle. And both are wibble, wobble jelly on a plate. With
Flexy.
And I thought this was really cool, given that we talked a little bit about passion and struggle in this chat.
Yeah.
And there's something gorgeous about this card. It's like just desserts in a way, and how passion and struggle are quite frequently interlinked, but we see them as like polar opposites when they're not. Like, and passion takes it from being a struggle into they almost alchemize one another. Like, if you're working really, really hard on something you're passionate about, it's not so much of a struggle because you're passionate about it. Whereas if you're struggling all the time to find what your passion is, then that's kind of killing your passion off. So that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
With this card. So that's a really interesting one. And then the second card, which is a slightly nudie warning again, is redemption.
I like that he's in a cup.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this, looking at it, because obviously for the English, how do we begin the healing process? Cup of tea. And then in the background, there's like a bee, and then the house, and it's
oh god, I just realized the backs of the cards.
Oh yeah.
Not to be distracted, but oh my god.
I know, right?
I love that.
I've got a set for you when I've got some. I'll be sending you a pack when I've got some spare cash. So this is very much about taking yourself outside of yourself, almost, or like outside of your house, and then healing.
Literally.
And there's an element of storming a teacup to it. There's an element of
burying your ass.
Yeah,
comes to mind.
Yeah, but there's something. It's not. There's also a black sun in the background, which is something.
Of course there is.
And there's clovers here as well. So clovers are the flowers that are in the pattern here. And clovers being wishing and healing, and clover tea is a thing as well for healing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it was making me think about the redemption of the parts of the self with regards to shadow work. And that's an interesting thought about how we allow ourselves to redeem parts of ourselves that maybe we've demonized. So maybe there's an element of redemption within the self with regards to shadow work.
Well, it's one of our chats. Someone just yelled balls.
Balls!
Yeah. I could see that. Redemption. Oh, the incense that called to be burnt was opium. And then I was like, not right now, because I'm just getting over a migraine. And then that one can be a little strong sometimes. And then I pulled out oud, which is kind of a similar feel. I love oud. But then it kept bothering me, so now they're both burning because fuck my life.
Doors are tall. Doors are tall.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So opium and oud. Yeah.
We're about question time, by the way, if there are any.
Yeah, we are. Question time.
Question time.
Question time. Gotta get those questions in.
Suddenly, a wild lesbian appeared.
Do you want us to ask me some questions?
This is my life.
Question time. At least he's not like between, like that one time. Give him time.
This. What?
Stay true, stay awesome.
Okay.
Right. I mean, if you do a podcast and you don't say stay true, stay awesome, is it even a podcast?
Yes.
Yes, it is. That was the window.
Yeah.
For you, those of you who don't know. Because I always was like, what is the sound? Yeah. There you go. That was the window.
It's the soul.
Yes. All right. Random says y'all look comfy.
Yeah, his back's been sore today, so he's in comfy mode.
Exactly. Joy, okay, we already read that. Da-da-da-da. So it's a shadow, very close, where it comes from.
Lord of the questions.
Right. We don't. I don't see any questions from y'all yet. So, let's see. We've gone over what is bad. Gone over the time and how that's a bad thing. We've gone over that it doesn't have to be super dark.
Super dark.
Yes,
super
dark.
Super dark.
Super dark. Ow. Oh, how to work through shadows from childhood. There you go.
Well, you can watch the entire series of me and Chris's Shadow Tribe work, because we talk about that a lot. Again, working through shadow work is a highly personalized perspective, so I think it depends really on what shadows we're talking about from childhood. They can be some of the most deeply ingrained because, as you know, we absorb as a child everything, and we accept what we're told a lot of the time as children. Not everything, depending on what we're like as children. Again, perspective. It really depends what shadow we're talking about, and how serious we're talking. And again, we said you have to tailor your own shadow work, because what works for one person may or may not work for another.
Yeah, well, and that was pretty much my answer, is that there is no one. It really depends on, like, I mean, first of all, you just got to pick a route, pick something from there, and then start traveling down it, and it'll lead you to other things. Because the more you think about how to just start, you're not going to start doing anything. So just, like, pick something.
And depending on how serious it is, depends on whether you need, like, a counseling situation.
Exactly. Yes. It's like a haunted house.
There's an old Scottish proverb that encapsulates what you just said. It's called "Stay True."
No, it isn't.
No.
That's not a Scottish
proverb. It's not an old Scottish proverb.
I'm Scottish.
You're only half Scottish.
You're not old.
You're not old. Yeah.
I'd say it was an old proverb. It was a Scottish proverb.
Oh my gosh.
Deal with it.
I don't have to.
No, I do.
All right, let's see. Tracy said, totally off topic question, but when will the CD be ready? Joey?
The music beside her, the runic music.
I'm assuming.
I can ask in a minute. He's gone into the bathroom, but I'll ask in a moment if he has an ETA for you.
See, working on watercolor. Oh, that's interesting. Gargoyle Mistress is working on watercolor while listening.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, babe. They've there's a question in chat about if you know when the ETA is for the Symphonies of the Cedar.
The release?
Yeah.
It's probably going to be between now and December. I'm just
Can you lower down so I'm not just staring at your crotch, please?
Oh, shit.
Or like back up maybe or something. Yeah, there we go.
The release is going to be between now and December. I'm finishing up the last couple of tracks, so probably was it now? October, November-ish.
Okay, you can kiss my forehead.
Cool.
That's it. There you go. Be affectionate.
I can go.
You can go now.
You want to see?
There's a song like this. Fuck, go and do what you tell me. This message is sponsored by Ashburn.
It's really not.
Thank you, Steph.
There you go. That's when the ETA is
on. All right, so there you go. Anybody else excited? It's finally October. Unfortunately, where I'm at, it's still in the 90s with no clouds. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Oh, well,
I have the windows open today. It's like 60 right now.
Well, you're all unlucky. I'm in Scotland and it's perfect autumnal weather. Oh.
Well, considering that when you got to Scotland, it was like hot when it was supposed to always be like breezy and rainy, which was like
it was still.
I feel like you've earned this.
It was still 8 degrees colder than England, so I was still a lot happier the minute I got here. Yeah, it's kind of cloudy and misty and a little bit of rain and a little bit of sun and autumnal leaves everywhere. It's great.
Yeah, the leaves are starting to turn here, so I'm excited. I've been thinking of like, my husband has a Kindle Fire, and if I can get stuff downloaded right, I might be able to like take a live chat like walk. Maybe at like a park or something. We'll see.
You're gonna have internet for that?
Yeah. I mean, there's hotspots and shit all around.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. But also, I get data anyway, so depending on how long.
Okay. Because I can't do that online because the internet doesn't reach.
Yeah. Scotland weather is like Oregon's weather, right? Someone asks. We don't know what Oregon's weather is, so we can't say, but...
No idea.
Pumpkins! Yes, okay. Wait, okay. Down the rabbit hole. Where'd they go? I see a response to them. I don't see where they said something. It can get kind of crazy, especially if it is something that is suppressed from childhood. Even though it hurts to remember, it can sometimes make sense of a whole lot of things. And Shakti said, working with soul retrieval and integration helps on my blog. I have a suggestion on that. From trauma from childhood.
Soul retrieval.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. I've heard of this book. Yeah, Anastasia Kimball says, the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It is amazing and talks about choosing the problems that you will have in your life. There is no life if there are not problems. There is no life without problems. Essentially, there is no you without shadow. I don't know where I am with that, though, because it also makes shadow the problem. Yeah. Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm feeling that, but also, like, thanks, Traveling Witch.
Oh, that's Jen, isn't it?
I think so. Oh, yeah, it is. It's Jen. When are you getting back on here with us?
And can you tell Jen that I have seen her messages, but I can't respond to her messages?
I mean, you just did.
Yeah.
So. But... She says, yes, I am here. She's home for the week.
Because I'm on the iPad, so I can't respond.
Oh, right. That's a question. Okay. Any plans for Samhain?
Well, In Edinburgh, they have this massive festival for Samhain, and they do like a burning. I don't know if they do like a Burning Man thing but I've seen it every year, and it's in Edinburgh. So I'm looking at hopefully.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The big festival that's in the streets.
Yeah, and everybody's in fire and like loincloths and stuff. Yes.
So if I can scrape enough money together, we're gonna go to Edinburgh and stay overnight.
That'll be fun.
And because it's a fair way on the train. It's like 2.5 hours on the train. But I'd really, really love to do that because I really want Samhain to be a big deal this year. So on a personal level, that's what I'm hoping to do. If not, I'll probably go to the forest and things. And of course, we had the podcast for Samhain around there.
Yeah. For me, I am usually pretty low key with festivals of that nature. I'm pretty much gonna light a fire and burn some shit, like just to be really frank. Light some incense, stick them in the ground around it.
I do like the overnight candle. There is a tradition of having an overnight candle in the window to guide souls that are lost.
Oh yeah. Usually that's when I put my candles up. Like when people, you know how they normally will put them in the windows for Yule. I started at Samhain.
Well,
because
I did
like it's just the darker part. And
a battery operated candle, and I've seen one again this year that I'm going to get because it's cheap. It's in the range and it's like £1 or something. And those you can leave on overnight without fear of burning everything down. So we might also do that.
Also, Sarah M. I just want to burn some shit in a fire, Cris the Witch. Hey, look, I'm truthful, okay? No, let's see. What was I going to say? Oh, right. Also, we have something else that's happening on Samhain.
I did say podcast.
Yeah, we have the podcast that's happening. And then I am hoping, I know that Solitary Witch Tracks is going to be here over that weekend. And I am hoping to get together and do like a big live chat. It's just like a bunch of people, like a little party, and have fun and hang out. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm probably gonna like paint myself up, bring my great-grandmother's cauldron out in the backyard and throw some stuff in it and light some incense and sing to the moon some, and yeah. I don't really go extremely in depth, I guess. I don't know.
I don't plan rituals ever because
call that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel out what feels right in the moment, if you like.
Yeah.
And I go for that. Sometimes, quite often, I'll do the jump over a broom or jump over a candle into the new year. That's always fun. Or you can jump over a little cauldron fire if you've got a little cauldron fire. Like, I'm in the new year now. Whee! You have to make that exact noise.
Whee!
That exact noise.
That big do it. Okay. Be proud. Okay, we have a question. Here is a question. How do you balance the magic aspect from the normal aspect of life so one versus the other does not drive you crazy because of overfocus? Oh, can I?
I know what you're going to say. You're going to steal my thought. Go on.
Well, we're both going to steal each other's thought. That's why I was like, let me go first. I want it.
I want to say it.
I want it. Me. No, they're one and the same.
Yep. There's no separation.
There is no separation. And the thing that's driving you crazy is the fact that you keep insisting they're separate. Stop separating them. They're the same. They're going to leak into each other. It's the same.
See the magic in the mundane and the mundane in
as
the
within.
magic.
Yep, as within, so without. As without, so within. No difference.
It's like cooking.
Jen says she loves your ears as well.
Thank you. Has everyone noticed my hair is red now? Nobody's
It's like red. I love it.
It's like cooking, though. If you look at cooking and how magical and full of alchemy cooking is, but most people will be like, no, that's everyday mundane. But it's not. It's magic.
All right, so, see, when I think of this kind of shit, I think back. When we think of, like, you know, old school witches, like on the outskirts of society, like folk magic kind of thing, right? Do we really think that they had multiple brooms? One for cleansing and one for cleaning, like physically? No, they used the same damn broom. Do we think that they had different massive iron cauldrons? No, they used one, and the magic was put into the food they made for their family. It was warming their home. That's why it has that. So they're the same. And within society, somehow this has been separated out.
Yeah.
They're the same.
That may be the internalization of...
Well, yeah, okay. Yes, your granny may have had 2 brooms, I'm saying. But I'm saying when we think back, like, the time that it took to make them and all this kind of stuff, the chances are that the things that they used...
Plus,
yes,
from an Inquisition point of view, so when they had people coming after them, if they had a particular broom and it would just look like an everyday broom, then that can be used against you by people who are coming after you. Because, that's just the broom for sweeping the floor. What are you talking about? And not that would stop witch inquisitors because they were...
Right,
but the idea of it being magic in plain sight.
Yeah.
Perception again.
Black Featherman says, it looks like a fiery magenta with the light super gorgeous.
Thank you.
Your hair. Yeah. The tools were multi-purpose. They had a normal look. That kind of thing. So, like, chances were they didn't really separate it.
Plus, there's magic in using something every day. It could become ingrained with your energy.
Absolutely. Yeah, Shakti Shaman says she also had separate dishes for spiritual workings, which I do now too, but keep in mind we didn't have to worry about the Inquisition. My lineage is different. So, I mean, and so that makes sense why yours would be that. Where I grew up, though, I grew up in the boonies with a lot of poor folk.
I can see the argument.
They were busy tending to crops and things like that. And so they usually just used the thing they had, the main thing. So I mean, like, this blanket it was also used as the altar cloth on my priestessing table. This blanket. It's also sat on the back of our couch for a long time, like my family's couch growing up. Yeah, so...
I mean, I see the opposite. So the opposite argument, for argument's sake, is by having plates just for that, then it becomes kind of sacred to that moment. So it gives it like a holy thing that, it's just for this. And then it puts you in that mindset of it's different. So I understand the argument for both, just to say. But, I mean, again, it's all perception and perspective, isn't it, really? It's what works.
Well, and again, like I said, this goes back to the fact that there's no one way.
Yep.
There's no one way, and the belief that there is one is where
we lose our shit.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, it is what it is, man. But like, for me, they're not different. And so it's not a balancing act. They're the same.
Yeah.
Okay, my pinnacle has a broom. My friend said, oh, here you go. Nuit asked, anybody do any scrying on Samhain?
Yes. I do a divination for the entire year. Like, I'll do a tarot reading for the entire witch's year. Like, and I tend to do my own for well, what I have been doing, I don't know if I can afford it this year, I'll find out, is that I do my own for Samhain and then I get one from Kellyanne for the January. And then I kind of like use the messages in both. And Kellyanne Maddox, for anybody who doesn't know. She's amazing.
When I go to a reader, I go to her.
Yeah.
I agree.
Although I've had readings.
Not to like discount any of the other readers, but like.
No. I mean, I had a really great reading from Arwen, from Terry, and I've had a couple of really good readings from Nico as well. But Kellyanne is amazing. So, and I tend to do like a themes of the year. So I might do some scrying in there. I might do tarot reading in there. It depends. But yeah, absolutely do divination for Samhain.
Honestly, I'm kind of always doing that. So to say that I just do it for that, like I don't do anything special in terms of it. But I'm always, looking at the clouds, watching my bath water, pulling cards. I pull cards daily.
Yeah, me
too. So like in that element, yes. So yeah, I scry my water and things like that. I'll scry my coffee, thanks to Joey. But I don't do a lot of main. Sorry, alarm on the computer's going off. I don't do a lot of the within ritual, the big, focus on it, you know what I'm saying? Just gotta do things, man, and the intent's there.
I will have a pumpkin spiced something for Samhain as well. I will say that.
This has pumpkin spice in it right now. It's pumpkin spice coffee.
Starbucks had pumpkin spiced cakes with pumpkin seeds on the top for this year, which they didn't have in the day before, and it's so good.
I see that too. I have separate dishes. Okay. Shakti says, I see that too. I have separate dishes for main workings, but when I cook and make my everyday tea or coffee, I do it ritually. So it's the same. It's all the same at that point too. I think for my grands, it's the Brahmin Hindu influence where they have separate puja rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, watching your bathwater, elaborate, please. So when you get out of the bath, the suds and the soap that has all foamed down now to be this slick.
I do it while I'm in there.
It's a film. Well, I'll do it there too, but for me, the most telling happens to be when I step out. Because I've left all that stuff in it because it's been running over me because I do showers.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So I'll do my bath soak, then I'll stand up, I'll do my shower, and then I'll step out. And so it'll have a bunch of it in there. And because I can never get my hair fully clean if I just do a bath. It bugs the shit out of me. So when I step out, I'll read the symbols. And usually there's swirls and you'll get faces or bird skulls or, all kinds of different things in it. And then I'll write that symbology down or symbols down, and then I'll look them up, or I will, most of the time before I look them up, what do they make me feel? What do I think? First, what comes to mind? Sometimes I'll get phrases, things like that.
It's like when people put ink in water and then they read the symbol in it, but it's using soap suds that you've bathed in for that.
Yep.
I do that too.
Yeah. It just kind of happened one day. I happened to look down and I saw the profile of a skull, and I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. And then from then on, I just paid attention.
Well, when I was a teenager, I used to spend my pocket money quite frequently on Lush bath bombs, They weren't as expensive as they are now, because you used to be able to get one for £2, and that one had the cocoa butter one, the small one, was £2 when I was growing up. So I get that quite frequently, and I used to scry in that.
Yeah.
Because that leaves a film and things.
Okay, so any other last things? Anything? Any last questions? Otherwise, we're going to be going out because we're over the 2 hour now. But it's been fun talking to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one of my favorite things to when I do my morning tea events is make Bakewells. I was thinking it would be cool to try it with a pumpkin puree instead of the raspberry for fall offerings. That sounds amazing. Yes, I agree with that. I condone this.
One in the post to me. That's it. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you were here, Shakti. She says, you guys were awesome. Glad I could participate. Pixie says, thank you, ladies. Random says, later, witchies. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right, then we are going to get out of here. Is there anything special you need to say, or?
Right now, you are in the closing month for Starry-Eyed Supplies Halloween goodies, because if you don't get them this month, they're gone.
There's a Gomez one, you guys. He's got a mustache. I'm done.
Yeah, there is a Gomez votive. I will do a Gomez scent this week. There is Wednesday Addams, there is Morticia Addams, and they're only available until Halloween, and then they are gone. So don't miss out. And right now I actually got 3. So I actually have 2 left of the little Pusheen Halloween boxes where you could get a little Pusheen like mine through the store, through any store order that is over £15 excluding shipping and has a Halloween item, any Halloween item. So you only have to put 1 Halloween votive in with your other products, and that qualifies you. And the first 2 will get a little surprise box, and you get a little Halloween Pusheen. Not necessarily this one, but you will get a little Halloween Pusheen box. So yeah.
And they said, could you remind me of the name of your upcoming podcast? So for those not seeing the chat later after this is posted, the upcoming podcast is What the Flux podcast. What the Flux?
What the Flux?
Yep. And you'll be seeing more details on that as we approach Samhain when it does get released.
We'll build up, we promise.
Yes. Yes.
There will be foreplay.
This is not what I signed up for.
Yes, it is, Dungeon. Yes, it is.
You're right, it is. Yeah, and then on my side, just keep eye on this channel because there is a Hell series coming up. So, yeah. And the paints will also be touching down soon as well to be sold again. So, yep. All right. I love your faces. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Bye.